Hi there, you've stumbled across our one video for the week of this week's DSiWare releases. We're only doing one video because, well, no one really cares about DSiWare games. Not even Nintendo. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna be reviewing all 3 games that came out this week. Yeah, just me, for the entire video. Unless you quit watching. Don't quit watching. I might save you money that you weren't gonna spend to begin with. Anyways, the 3 games that come out this week are the Rohrer Anthology, Music on Drums, and the Word Searcher 2. So the way this will work is, you just select in the pause screen the game that you want to see the review for. If you just want to see them all, you just let the pause screen run out. Alright, it's about to pause now. Video games aren't art. Or so said video game expert Rohrer Ebert. When people say video games aren't art, I want to show them games like Alt played the Rohrer Anthology. I know what some of you might be saying, the game is ugly. It's a pixelated 8-bit game, so why is that considered art and not other games? The reason is, this game is like a painting. It's not fun, and it requires a lot of analyzing to fully understand. That is why this game is considered art, and why so many people point to games like this as examples of art. Indie games. Indie games are a common example. Games like Gears of War are fun and don't go really deep. Now that's not necessarily criticism with this game or Gears of War. They're 2 different style of games. Obviously, this is not a Gears of War. Nobody's being fooled that this is some shooter, violent shooter. The big thing that needs to be known about the Rohrer Anthology, it comes with 3 games: Passage, Gravitation, In Between. The stories, for me at least, in Passage and Gravitation are excellent. Now, it's like a painting, like I said, so the story depends on the person playing it. It depends if the story kind of connects with you. And for Passage, it really did connect with me. It told a story of life and death, and as you progress through life, you're seeking treasure, you're seeking money, these accomplishments, and in the end, does it really matter? Well, there is the legacy of the number after you die that carries on, but you're dead in the end. And so it calls into question there. You can sort of, you meet a love interest, and your wife travels throughout the game, if you so choose, and it makes it harder to get these treasures and navigate through the maze on the bottom, but it also gets you more points as you go along, and so it's these sort of trade-offs that are really fascinating, at least to me. Maybe not to you guys. Maybe it is fascinating to you guys. I know that a lot of people said that Rohrer is this snob. He doesn't like violent video games and that kind of thing. It has to be games that aren't fun. That is what he wants. But if you really take a look at the games, Gravitation's even a better example than Passage, because Gravitation affected me more than Passage did. Gravitation, really, you're playing with your kid. And this is my interpretation, so maybe other people have different interpretations. But in Gravitation, you're playing with your kid, and the level sort of changes, and it's brighter and happier, and you're able to jump higher, and you can go for higher achievements, go for career aspirations. But when you go for that, you lose connection with your daughter, and eventually your daughter's gone at the end of the game. And so it's these sort of how he plays with the core emotions of how you identify with a daughter or a love interest or just goals throughout life. Now the 3rd game, Between, I didn't get it all. I actually looked online to see what other people were saying about it, and it seemed like a lot of people were confused about it. I don't really know what it stands for. I mean, I guess maybe I'm kind of thinking it's sort of talking about you can't get through life alone, but that could be completely off base. And for each of these 3 games, there's actually included a creator's statement where Rohrer talks about the meaning behind the game. And so for Passage and Gravitation, he does talk about it and clearly illustrates what the point of the game was. But for Between, it's just some poem that's confusing again, and so it just seems like it's needlessly confusing, and I just think it's stupid. I don't like the game. I don't like Between at all. Really, though, all 3 aren't good games. They're not really fun to play. The gameplay mechanics for all 3 are pretty bad, actually. Beyond just simply analyzing these games, once you look into the gameplay mechanics, Passage is actually a pretty poor maze puzzle type game. When you're going through the maze, most of it ends in dead ends, and whether that's some sort of metaphor that when you're going through maze, a lot of times you have to turn back and correct yourself, I don't know, but it doesn't make for really a fun, engaging gameplay experience. For Gravitation, the platforming is actually worse than the gameplay in Passage. And when you jump up and you hit the platform, the bottom of a platform, you drop straight back down and you can't correct yourself. So you're constantly finding yourself, you're jumping and then you drop straight back down, and it's just not a fun experience. So if you're not analyzing these as a message towards life, which, I mean, I was affected by the first two games, then you're not going to have a fun time at all with these games. And I totally get why these games divide people, because it really depends on whether you get them or not. Between offers probably the best gameplay experience, but the big problem is it's slow and doesn't have a definitive ending, or at least I couldn't find a definitive ending, and you need to play with another person, and I just don't really like that. The music, if you can hear it in the background at all, I really like the music in this game. I never found myself thinking, wow, this music is obnoxious, or anything like that. Usually I was almost humming along. I really liked the music in these games. Not to the point where it's like some Super Mario Bros. Music, but it was solid music throughout. As far as graphics go, I'm not going to jump on the graphics and say that they're terrible, because it's the 8-bit style of graphics, and I actually think that it lends towards the discovery of the themes of the games, that you don't want these characters detailed out, you don't want these levels detailed out, because it's really what you're putting into the game. I do like that he sort of plays with the screen size. Passage is just a long, skinny screen that is almost accordion-like as you're looking towards your future. And I really like what he did there. There's a lot of attention paid. There's a lot of attention paid towards graphics in the game, and just don't just think the game looks ugly. It looks like a terrible experience. You might find it that way. Replayability, well, there's not really much there. I do want to touch on real quick that you can get these games free online. So it comes down to, I'd actually, in my written review, I suggest that you go to his website, you download and you play these games, and why not? They're free. And if you really like them, just donate $2 to him if you really want to, instead of spending $2 on the DSiWare game. In my opinion, the games, these three games, are worth $2 in total. It's worth it. I would pay $2 for these games, just for the experience that I went through. But I think that it's better suited you just go to the website and donate money to them. And it's really just one and done. Unless, like I said, I'm going to end it on an analogy. The games are like a painting. You're only going to go back to reanalyze them again. So you might not think it, but Music on Drums is the best DSiWare game to come out this week. It's not really a game, there's not any objectives, it's just sort of a beat creation tool, but there are a crazy number of sounds that you can actually use in this game. There's 150, I believe. Maybe it's 160. But the big problem with the number of sounds is that it can get kind of cluttered. They're all listed in alphabetical order, and when you're trying to assign them to the pads that you hit with the stylus, you have to go between menus and try to like switch between the different sounds, and that can be kind of cumbersome. That's sort of a small complaint, I guess, because the actual sound quality of these sounds is really good when you're just sort of beating along and just doing your own thing. You're not really trying to create anything fancy. Just hearing the different songs, or different sounds, you can start to kind of get a beat in your head that you kind of want to create. And it's because the sounds all sound really great. There's hand clapping, all sorts of different beats. The one thing that is, I guess, similar to every other music synthesizer game, especially on the DS, is it's kind of confusing at first. And for the love of God, if any of you have played a DSiWare game before, you know that the menu system, the help system that Nintendo has, that's standard for all DSiWare games, is the ugliest thing ever. Seriously, someone needs to redesign it. It's just this ugly, plain white menu screen. There's no fanciness at all to it. But the actual game itself does manage to utilize the DS screen real estate pretty well. I never really felt like it was cluttered. There's a lot of stuff on the screen, but I always felt like I could find everything that I wanted to. And this is in contrast to other games like Jam Space that we reviewed that really it was confusing just to look at. You didn't know what the menus were. Everything was so tiny. But this game, Music on Drums, really does look nice, actually. I mean, it's standard, so it's nothing really fancy. It's a beat synthesizer tool, but it looks for the most part nice, and that's a nice surprise, I guess. You can do some editing, I guess, once you sort of build together your patterns. You can turn it into a song and put these patterns together and mute certain patterns and combine patterns together. And it's all nice. I do wish that there was a little bit more editing that you could do, but again, it's for the DS. You can't, you don't expect that much. It's not a full suite to edit your own beats and create a song. It's just a simple little tool. And it's really nice. I think it's $5, and it's probably worth that price. The problem, and this will be a problem for any sort of music creation thing on the DS, is it's difficult to export your creations. You have to hook up a microphone or hook up headphones and use splitters, and it's just a really complicated mess. And that really starts to beg the question, is it worth the price? Because if you can only keep it on your DS, it's really useless. Well, you're going to call someone over, hey, check out my beat, it's on the DS! I mean, that just doesn't work out. You want to be able to export it and share it with people if you really like the beat and you're into this. The casual person probably is not going to like this, just jumping in and thinking it'll be a fun experience. You really, the goal is to create your own beats and songs. So if you don't want to do that, the game's not for you. Don't even think about getting it. But if you do, it's really, I guess, weighing whether or not it's worth it to you if you want to go through the trouble of exporting your songs to the computer so you can share it with other people, and if that's really important to you. Alright folks, I have a headache. No, it's not from staring at a computer screen 10 hours a day, because Lord knows that's what I do. It's from playing this game. Word Searcher 2, unlike any other puzzle game that I've really played, has given me the biggest headache. It's from staring at the DS screen with this focus, with these soft textured letters, that you're searching for these words, of course, because it's Word Searcher 2, that's what you do. But you're staring at the DS screen, really focusing, and if you do it for longer than I would, probably 15 minutes, you start to get a headache. It's the screen, it's the brightness of the screen. The backgrounds are bland, and maybe it would be different if there was a darker background with lighter letters, something different than what there is in just the off-white, kind of mimicking paper look. That's it. It's a headache. For gameplay, it just consists of word search puzzles. Only word search puzzles. So if you like that, well, there's word search puzzles that'll give you a headache. There's a lot of word search puzzles, though. There's 100 word search puzzles with a whole bunch of different categories. And that's something that's good about this game. A lot of word search puzzles, which could last you a long time if you try to spend any significant amount of time with this game, like on an airplane, which is actually something that I think that it might be suitable for. You'll probably get a headache. And it's just that trying to read a book on an LCD screen, trying to play this game on an LCD screen like the DS, it's all cramped. It doesn't work. It's much better on paper. Just the old pen and paper word search puzzles. That's where it's at. That's where you need to go if you want word search puzzles. That's really where you need to go. The music is bad in this game. It's obnoxious, it repeats, it's just the same thing over and over again. And guess what? After 10 minutes, I muted the DS. So it's absolutely pointless. It actually distracts. You're trying to search for these words and it's giving you a headache. And then you have this music that starts to ramp up with this energy. And it distracts you from trying to find the words. So that's the music of the game. That's really the game. There's no online leaderboard, so as far as competing with other people, it's really non-existent. You just compete with yourself, trying to find the words faster and faster and faster. It sounds like I'm mocking this game. All you're doing is searching words. And you know, there is a role for a game like that. That's what the word search books are for. You have them, it works. It's like Sudoku. They're puzzles and you just do them. But not in this case. Not with such a cramped, bland, graphical style of the game. Not with... There's nothing beyond word search puzzles. That's what there is. A lot of word search puzzles. A lot of headache.